Welcome. My name is Opuwo Benebo. As observed prior, operating a landmass as a farm, whether subsistence farm or large-scale industrial farm, has the ultimate goal of producing farm produce for consumption by the farmer and related kins, either of blood or of as a human family. And the farming starts with the selection of the crops deemed essential to the wellness of the food consumer. In effect, a set of crop-yielding produce for food must be decided upon subject to certain criteria to start off the farming. In synopsis, this episode, entitled Deciding Essential Crops Farmed in the Subsistence Farms, addresses the criteria on which the essential crop selections may be based, the selection of the crops proper and the rational justification of the selections, and the limitations in the selection criteria, and hence the option of farmers for divergence and modifications of the criteria and selection. The driving rationale eliciting the criteria for essential crops is based on the recognition that, though agreed the object of this endeavor is to alleviate world hunger, and admittedly, implicit in that goal is the assumption or even requirement that the food eaten be life-preserving, in which case the food must be healthful. More specifically, the food must sustain the blood hemoglobin count as is necessary, keep the blood fluidity free of potential for blood clots and minimal of frictional drag on the blood vessels walls, ensure the heart pumping blood is under mild conditions of blood pressure, the muscle building and support of functionality as standard, and overall immunity and freedom from parasitic infections, with general outcome being that the farm produce should be able to give humanity a level of longevity to some extent, and also enable humanity to derivatively produce other secondary products that humanity may already have become accustomed to. Strictly, the best case scenario approach for evaluating and determining essential crops would be to access a platform for a sort of human mimetics table for evaluating every type of food eaten all over the world, and after all, everything human beings consume causes fundamental disequilibrium, and that the body tries to reset by the biosynthesis that occurs relative to particle physics guided disequilibrium, the data of which would be entries in the table. Essentially, a human mimetics table inclusively maps the derivative effect of the specific blood chemical environment of every food eaten by a human being. Such map can be constructed out of or through digestion analysis and determine the blood chemical environment each food creates at assimilation into the blood, and will also include the role or the effect of the external environment in the form of diffusion into the blood stream through the skin of non-edible substances, parasites, and microorganisms, and hence the impact of this external matter on the biosynthesis. The composite effect of the blood chemical environment as determined by the food and external objects additions by diffusion through the skin are the contents of such a human mimetic table. However, there is no known supported human mimetics platform for evaluating such complexities. Yet, in the absence of such complex systems of evaluation, perhaps the selection of the essential crops could still be made sufficiently and tenably by use of knowledge scope of crops already available. The implementation of the selection, therefore, follows from the simplest approach, which is to pre-select known food and then evaluate the related documented properties, alignment, or contrast with the objects of having the food to eat. Agreed, this is a circular approach because the approach actually draws on accumulated knowledge base to make the selection and then gives a backhand justification. But for now, it is the one that's available means of addressing the issue. Of course, the assessment of the properties may be continually revisited for accuracy based on crops biochemistry to evaluate the blood chemical environment that each food produces and to continually fully define the food properties and make selection changes to better align the essential crops with the objects of having food to eat. First, we consider the object of sustaining the blood hemoglobin count as is necessary, and for this objective, the selection is the black-eyed peas cash crop. There may be possibly other choices, but this selection of black-eyed peas is informed on the prescription of a Texas U.S. medical doctor to a patient, and which turned out to work out very well. So one ridge would be planted with only black-eyed peas. Regarding maintaining the blood fluidity free of potential for blood clots and minimal of frictional drag on the blood vessels wall, the select cash crop is tomatoes. This selection is informed from an article of Reader's Digest of 2001, possibly June, that extensively discussed the impact of tomatoes on the blood and which has been tried and borne out to hold when consumed daily in puree that gradually dissolved a blood clot. This fluid, when cut across to expose its cross-sectional area, shows a soft central gel section and relatively solid shell containing the gel section. Known about this fruit is that the gel interior is first and foremost a blood thinner, hence prevents blood clots, and second, a blood slippery aid, and as such minimizes blood vessel erosions, thereby prevents thrombosis and reduces the degree of exertion of force by the heart to move blood through the body. Of course, notwithstanding the additional recent revelations by research that shows other sources of pumping mechanisms that also aid the heart. So one ridge would be planted with tomatoes. Of next consideration is the enabling of the heart pumping of blood that endure under mild conditions of blood pressure. And for that, onion is yet another produce that has been researched and determined to lower blood pressure. Onion is full of quercetin, which is an antioxidant and also maintains normal blood pressure for mild non-stress pumping activity of the heart. Of course, it also influences immunity, but the choice in this context is overwhelmingly for the quercetin effect on the heart. So this crop is also to be planted in a ridge. The next objective guiding the selection of essential crop is the requirement of the muscle building and support of functionality as standard. And for this criteria, the choice is simply carbohydrate, which provides a substance for base reactants in the formation of carboxylic acids from which amino acids are produced in tertiary metabolic reactions. Then, of course, it is documented that amino acids, which is produced from the carboxylic acids, form steroids, are also produced to support muscle strength, muscle weight building, and stability. So for this objective, tuber carbohydrate source is the preferred selection, but the sources are far more numerous than the other crops, so far preferred as essential. And in that regard, there is a wide range of options, some with characteristically outstanding single property and others with mixed properties that must be balanced against the uniquely selected food. Tubers that are similar in form are many, including tropical yam with white or off-white flesh, North American white potato, the tropical sweet potato that has white interior and is actually sugar sweet. And the last but not the least, cassava, also called yucca. Because of uniformity of worldwide availability, the tuber cash crop of cassava is the crop of choice for this selection. However, while there are other reasons for this choice as well, not made obvious at this time, the selection, unlike the earlier ones made, is not sacrosanct, and the farmer may opt to select another or plant a rotation of the listed options. Yet, this tuber is also to be planted on one ridge. Next concern to be addressed by the food consumed is the cleansing of the body of parasites and pathogen infections that lead to inflammation and ultimately death, which must be delayed as much as possible by enabling the body prevent external microorganisms from thriving in the human body. And the tropical cash crop, commonly known as bitter leaf, is another odd vegetable well suited for this objective, and is the one specially recommended vegetable across all national boundaries and bears the scientific name Vernonia amygdalina, which, though tropical, is easy to plant and sustain even in temperate weather countries. This plant has bitter leaf, but is well documented to be anti-cancerous. And as with all bitter-tasting fruits and plant extracts, the juice from it are deleterious to parasites and some cancer cells. And being vegetable like spinach, it can be used in a variety of meals for serving. Extensive washing often washes away the bitterness, leaving only the cellulosic part for which it provides the equivalent role of spinach. So whether it is used as a spinach equivalent or eaten for the anti-parasitic effect or anti-cancerous effect is up to the farmer and the degree of washing the consumer performs before the consumption. This plant also is selected as an essential crop and one to be planted on the ridge. Now, returning to the options available in tuber for carbohydrate, there is also the option of yellow yam, also called by some as sweet potato. So there are, of course, two known versions of potato tuber that are called sweet potato under the circumstances. The sweet potato that has yellowish interior, also called yellow yam, is mostly found in North America, while the one of purplish color and white flesh is commonly found in the tropical world, mostly Africa. So specificity in choice is important, and accordingly, the differentiation made for our purposes is for both to be called potato with color adjective, yellow potato and white potato as the differentiator. The yellow potato brings into the wellness consideration, besides the carbohydrate factor, the beta-carotene content, which is carotenoid and so supports immunity and converts in the body to vitamin A, which also helps with sight vision and eye wellness. However, yellow potato is not common in most other parts of the world, and that then raises consideration for factoring alternative crops that contain beta-carotene into the selection. So there is a need to get a crop with yellow interior as such, as source of beta-carotene for the farmers who have no access to or even are familiar with the yellow potato. And in the tropics, the equivalent will be carrots, pumpkins, cantaloupe, and these offer the alternative. So a supplementary choice of tuber is the yellow potato in North America and yellow squash in other regions that have no yellow potato. The conclusion that could be drawn here is that a farmer may choose among the following foods as essential crops: tomato, onion, one of the set of sweet potatoes, white potato and yam, cassava as a preferred main for starch and flour, and for immunity, then the choice of pumpkins, cantaloupe, and so on, together with, of course, the blood thinner, blood slippery, choices of, again, tomato, and bitter leaf for keeping the blood free of parasites and microorganisms infections. And it is a wrap. On that note, I say to you, thank you so much for having come to listen to this observation about efforts aimed at alleviating world hunger and survivability through subsistence farming by both urban dwellers and emergent countries' small farmers. You are truly appreciated. Now, if you would like to get privileged viewer-reader information, access podcasts of specialized content, or even vertically integrated concepts, then I implore you to join my supporters club and enjoy that privileged status. Thank you. And while still here, do please take a moment and subscribe to the channel as to be informed of the publication of every new episode as soon as it is released. Bye. Till next episode.